Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rashis Kaiman, the tallest man in Black Africa. 100 days in office are over. But the question that I'd like to pose to Mr. President, how have you served your people, Mr. President? The other question that I'll pose to the citizens is, how have you been served? How have been the fuel prices? How has been the cost of living? How has been the price of petrol? How has been the price of Uga? How has things been going on in the first 100 days of Kenya Kwanza administration? So if you're here for the first time, this is Gashis Kaman, the tallest man in Black Africa. Kindly subscribe to this channel and remember to like this video. Again, when the history of this country will be written, the first chapter is already written when it comes to William Samoei Ruto. You know, William Samoei Ruto will occupy also a big chapter, and he has already written the first chapter in the first 100 days. And yesterday, the person who was advising, or who is advising Raila Odinga, deserves a pat in the back. Congratulations, because he came out very strongly, point by point, showing the weaknesses of Kenya Kwanza. And according to Raila Odinga, out of 10, he would give William Samoei Ruto 4, which is equivalent to 40%. If you ask me, I think this is so high. He has rated him very highly, because I would give him something like 25%. And when Raila Odinga was elucidating his points, one by one, he was able to put everything very clearly. And the first thing that he's talked about is the subsidies. He said for the during the first 100 days in office, William Samoei Ruto was able to remove the fuel subsidies. He was able to remove the subsidies for education. He was able to increase the cost of electricity and many other things. So the 100 days in office were termed as hot air days in office. Again, Raila Odinga aliweza kuonyesha vizuri sana kwamba pesa za wazee na leader mama ni pesa ambazo zimebebwa na maji, zimepotea na maji. Ukweli usemu ni kwamba wazee wanalia kilio ambacho ni kilio cha haki. Mama analia kwa sababu zile pesa ambazo alikuwa anapewa na Raila Odinga na Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta ziliweza kupigwa marufuku. And if you ask me, this was not a good idea. This was not a good move. Politically, it was wrong. Because when you see wazee wakilia, because they were used to getting subsidies, they were used to getting money from Jubilee administration, then when you come here and remove the money, it is not something that is going well, that is auguring well with the family that were getting these subsidies. Again, he said that Kenya Kwanza was a government that moved people from the frying pan into the fire. Watu walitolewa kwenye kago na wakatiwa ndani ya moto. It's very interesting. And if you ask me, I think Raila Odinga is true, is correct. What he said is true. What he said, I agree with him. And I support him. Because ukiangalia utaona kwamba maisha yamekuwa mabaya sana. Maisha yamezidi kuwa mabaya sana. Watu wanazidi kuumia, na ndio sababu sasa unajua katika kago utachomwa na moto, lakini kimugumugu uweza ukaponea chupuchupu ukaruka. Lakini ukiwa pale katika moto, ukiwa ndani ya moto, utateketea na huenda ikawa huwezi ukatokea pale. Again, he also talked about the GMO. He told William Samoei Ruto, for the first 100 days, you have been forcing Kenyans to use GMO. You have been forcing GMO on Kenyans' throats. And people don't want this. Kenyans are not support of GMO. Watu wanajua kwamba vyakula vya asilia ndivyo ambavyo wanataka. Mbolea asilia, wanyama asilia, nyama asilia, lakini si ile ambayo imekuzwa katika maabara. Ni jambo ambalo walikataa katakata. And again, Baba was able to put this point very clearly, and everybody can now understand the role that Baba is playing. Again, he also talked about the cabinet secretaries. And he said that majority of these people are going against Chapter 6. So when William Samoei Ruto was appointing them, when he was nominating them, some of them had murder cases. And you are seeing the court throwing these cases away. Some of them had cases of corruption. So he told him very clearly that he has been going against Chapter 6 of the Constitution. And what does this portray for the nation? The fact of the matter is that if this continues, then the rule of the law may be replaced by the rule of the jago. Again, he also talked about of lack of regional balances, because you need to have regional balancing. Because when you have two tribes leading this country, two tribes occupying more than half of the cabinet, more than half of the principal secretaries, more than half of the parastatals, then this is not good at all. A country with more than 40 tribes, then the constitution is very clear. Katiba yetu ni wazi kabisa na inaeleweka kwamba that the appointments must always reflect the regional balances, must also reflect the face of Kenya. When you look at the cabinet, William Samoei Ruto's cabinet doesn't reflect the face of Kenya. When you look at his government, it only reflects two regions, which is wrong in my view and according to Raila Amolo Odinga. He also talked about the gender balances. Jinsia ni kitu ambacho alikuwa ameahidi, and he had talked about 50% of his cabinet. He failed to achieve this, and I think it is very, very good when it is pointed very clearly, so that when it comes to 2027, people will be able to see whether this promise was fulfilled. Because if you ask me, I think he did not meet this promise. He also talked about the foreign policy, and he said that we have a reckless trade minister, we have a clueless foreign affairs minister, and these are the people who are expected to negotiate with countries like Russia that are supposed to intervene, they are supposed to give their inputs. And according to Raila Amolo Odinga, some of these guys are clueless. How do you expect Mutua now to deal with Biden? How do you expect these guys? These guys don't have the know-how. They don't know how to deal with this. You know, when it comes to foreign policies, you see, what we are doing is like we are doing guesswork. We need to have a clear foreign policy so that this country can move forward. Again, he also talked about overborrowing. You know, when William Samoei Ruto took over the government, he was accusing Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta of overborrowing. And what we have seen him going to the Western nations, IMF, and he has borrowed so much money within 100 days in office. And if the trend continues, I think during the first year in office, he will have borrowed more money than what Uhuru Kenyatta borrowed in 5 years. So this is not going well, because you see, he was against this. And you see now what is happening ni kwamba watu wanaelekezwa katika nchi ya madeni, wanaelekezwa katika ulimwengu wa madeni, jambo ambalo si nzuri hata kidogo. Again, he also Raila Amolo Odinga talked about the Asras funds, and he said that in the final analysis, public money will be lost. This is a venture. This is chasing the wind. This is one area that the government is going to lose a lot of money, and this will be public money. All said and done, when you look at William Samoei Ruto's government, we were all in agreement that inflation has hit a rocket high. Everything, the price of commodities, sharing is exchanging to a dollar. I think I can't even remember, because it is fluctuating every day. And I can say that there's no problem in Kenya. What we have is a president who was given the honor and privilege to serve the people. He promised so many things that could only be achieved by 500 years. But what he promised that he could achieve in 100 days, I think he can only achieve in 5 to 6 years. So he overpromised, if you ask me. Again, if Kenya is to prosper, William Samoei Ruto must understand that the tribe must die. The tribes must die. I don't mean that the Kikus must die. I don't mean the Rose must die. I don't mean the Kaji must die. What I mean is that Kenyans must unite. Kenyans must be a tribalist nation. Kenyans must talk as Kenyans, not as Kalijins, not as Kikuyus, not as Rose, because this is something that is very ugly. That is something that is eating this country. And what we have, when you look at William Samoei Ruto, you look at his administration, you see that he's entrenching tribalism. Good, if you ask me. Again, Kenya has nothing to lose if they unite. The only thing that you have to lose is tribalism and sacrifice. So we have no choice other than uniting. We have no choice other than seeing each other as Kenyans, other than seeing each other as Africans. And it is also important to know that America cannot have Kenyans' interests at heart. Britain cannot have Kenyans' interests at heart. It is only Kenyans who can have the interests of Kenyans at heart. And something that we have seen in this administration is that they have been trying to fight for their God. And I want to posit that if you are fighting for your God, that is not a true God. God must fight for himself. God is an omnipotent God. God is an omnipresent God. You don't have to fight for your God. So when you start telling us that it is your God who put you on the throne, you're on the wrong. It is wrong. Let God fight for himself because he is all knowing, because he is all powerful and is everywhere. Again, we also need to know that everything falls and fails with the president. Waswahili wanasema samaki huoza kuanzia kichwani, anaoza kuanzia kichwani. Na Wakikuyu pia wana huu msemo ambapo ikiwa kiongozi ambaye anaelekeza watu ndiye ambaye atashindwa kuifikia ile nyasi, wengine wataweza kuifikia. Huyu ni wenu Gashis Kaiman, the Black Africa.